Part 20. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongde Aishang. Chapter 191. A flash of cold air passed through the room, and Louis frowned slightly, blocking the ice pick that was shooting straight into his eyes. Oh, what about the guy who seems to be unconvinced? What is this? Provocation. Provocation. Shiroyasha, you have seen it too. I can crush these ants to death who dare to blaspheme the majesty of my Perseus. Louis. Bayaksha let out an angry shout, obviously really angry. Lozos curled his lips in disdain, and finally sat down with some dissatisfaction. Although he wasn't afraid of Bayaksha, he didn't dare to really anger him. If she was really angered, even 10 lives would not be enough to kill her. And just after he sat down with some dissatisfaction, another sound broke through the air. Damn it, do you really think I won't dare to take action now that Shiroyaksha is here? He wanted to reach out and intercept the ice pick like before, but the moment the ice pick came into contact with Lozo's palm, it actually shattered. What? Louis Ausen, who did not react, was immediately hit in the face by fine pieces of ice, as if he had been hit by a ball of snow. Sorry, my hand slipped accidentally. Yeah, you looked apologetic on one side, while Izaoi and Asuka on the other side couldn't help laughing. You wanna die? In anger, Lozos attacked Yayu brazenly, while Bayaksha, who was sitting aside, frowned slightly. Yayu provoked her again and again, and now even she couldn't say anything. Don't make any mistake, this should be what we say to you. Easily holding the fist that Lozos hit, Yayu said lightly, and then clenched his palm tightly. The sound of breaking ice was accompanied by Lozos' scream. This guy was really too weak, not even as good as the snake god he encountered at the end of the world at that time. Is this the leader of the 5th outer community of Hakedan? Yayu raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Lozos, who was holding his frozen fist and howling in pain. Of course, what Yayu didn't know was that Lozos was a completely uneducated playboy who had a good birth and became the leader of the Perseus community. Okay, Yayu, give me some face and don't go too far. At this time, Bayasha also spoke softly, which solved the current situation. She did not forget to glance at Louis, which was a warning to him. The only thing that Lozos can regain his place now is the gold jewelry he wears around his neck. That head-shaped ornament is the strongest gift of the Perseus Guild that can rival the Demon King. But once he uses this, it means he declares his death sentence. On the 7th outer layer, a Demon King level being is unleashed wantonly. Shiroyaksha, who has been looking for a chance to kill him for a long time, will definitely kill him in an instant. So Lozos could only endure it. Anyway, the bargaining chip was still in his hands. With the little vampire in his hands, Lozos was not afraid that he would not be able to deal with the mere nameless one. This is just a punishment for the arrogant words you just said. Just treat what happened just now as if nothing happened. Humph, then I'll give you Bayaksha some face. I understand your purpose, it's just for that vampire girl. As Luyo said this, Shiroyasha spoke again. Louis, don't you want money? Let's pay for Letitia. Lord Shiroyasha, this. Of course, this is just the black rabbit that I have lent to you temporarily. You must remember to return it. Shiroyaksha just smiled at Black Rabbit's grateful eyes. No. I refuse. However, Lozos rejected it. What, Louis, are you looking down on us? Bayaksha was slightly angry, and there was a sharp murderous intent in the eyes only exposed under the folding fan. Oh my god, how dare I look down on Lord Shiroyasha? It's just that I suddenly changed my mind. Lozos looked at Black Rabbit with evil eyes. Let's make a deal. I'll let the vampire return to Nameless. But, I want you. I want you to be mine for the rest of your life. How could this be possible? You scumbag, Juyuan Finiao shouted angrily. Please wait a moment, Asuka. Asuka grabbed Black Rabbit's hand. But Black Rabbit didn't get up. Black Rabbit's eyes were filled with confusion. It was obvious that she was hesitating about the proposal. Lozos, who noticed this, smiled evilly. Decide, decide. Aren't you a moon rabbit? It's your wish to sacrifice for your friends, isn't it? Self-sacrifice is instinctive for you, right? Looking at the silent Black Rabbit, Lozos showed a satisfied smile. Just when he was about to say something to add fuel to the fire, he was interrupted by the sound of footsteps walking in a hurry. Chief! Chief! The anxious voice was obviously calling Louis. What's the matter? You're in a panic. Looking at the men who walked in with some displeasure, Louis asked with a dissatisfied look on his face. Well, it's like this. The customer who took a fancy to the vampire in the fourth outer layer came to the headquarters and insisted on meeting the leader and buying the vampire. It's really troublesome, just refuse, Lozos said impatiently. I tried to refuse, but those two people were very determined. They had to see the leader, and, the price has been raised 100 times. 100 times, even Luis was stunned by the exaggerated price. Looking at Black Rabbit, who was still silent, an idea suddenly came to Lozos's mind, and then he spoke with a wicked smile. Sure enough, although the appearance looks cold and indifferent, such a cute appearance is an irresistible temptation for those who like that kind of tone. Tie a stubborn woman in chains and make her kneel down and scream. There are still people who like this, right? Under the natural prison called sunshine. The knight on standby wanted to interject and say that the two customers were actually women, but after looking for a long time, he couldn't find a chance to interject. But it was obvious that Lozos' words had successfully shaken Black Rabbit. Mr. Logio, please let me think about it, before that. Okay. I can ease the date of the transaction for a while, but I will only wait for you for a week, Luis said with a grin. Let's go back and see who our wealthy guest is. After saying that, Lozos left the room with his men. Hey! Black Rabbit, you really don't mind becoming that man's possession? And Master Shiroyasha, why don't you stop him? After Lozos left, the puzzled Kuanosuke asked loudly. Black Rabbit remained silent and did not speak, but Shiroyasha spoke. Compared with this, we are more curious about who the buyer who paid 100 times the price is. This kind of random style has given us some bad memories. Bayaksha's face looked very strange as he said this, and Yayu also had a strange feeling in his heart. It seemed like something was coming, something that made him worry about but fear him at the same time. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 192. The location is the fifth outer floor of the small garden, outer gate 26,745. Thousand Eyes branch 88. The outer gate of 26,745 is the outer gate that Bayaksha, the class ruler who lives on the first floor, is responsible for. At the same time, it is also the headquarters of Perseus, which is also owned by Thousand Eyes. In the room specially prepared for guests, Nationaza sat bored on a chair and swayed her legs. Following Kel'Thuzad's advice, she finally hid the dragon horns and tail on her head. It's so boring. Why doesn't that leader of such a broken community come back? Just grab it, sir. Kindness. Nationaza tilted her head slightly to show her heartbeat. After all, to a certain extent, she was still a lawless demon king. But just when the girl was about to turn her heart into action, a knight belonging to the Perseus community walked in. Two customers, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. The leader has returned and is waiting for you two in the hall. After respectfully saluting the two women, the knight stood up and made a gesture of invitation. We are finally here. The leader of the fifth outer community is really big. Neshanisha said this, and jumped down from the chair very cutely. Kel'Thuzad followed her respectfully and left the room with her. In the hall of the Perseus headquarters, on the high throne, Lozos was tapping the armrest of the throne out of boredom. Next to him was Letitia, who was completely petrified. What a bunch of losers. Can't you even do something as trivial as delaying time? This requires me to come back in person, he complained dissatisfiedly to his subordinates below. Lozos was still feeling sorry for leaving the wonderful and lovely Black Rabbit. He is worried about the people around him. I almost got that rabbit. It's really annoying. My lord, it's not that I don't want to delay, but those two guests are too strong and must see your lord immediately, the knight below Lozos said with a wry smile. TCH, it's really. Louis curled his lips with some dissatisfaction, and continued to ask, do you know where those two guys came from? It's not very clear. The knight frowned. The people who received the goods only said that they came from the fourth outer layer. It seems that they should belong to a certain community in the fourth outer layer. The fourth outer layer? The fourth outer layer is the world of Thousand Eyes. I want to see who these two guys are. There is no reason for the other party's identity as a possible member of the fourth outer layer community. Intimidated, Louis said proudly. When the shopkeeper on the fourth outer level brought people from the community to meet with Nesha, Nessa, and Kel'Thuzad, Nesha had already hidden her striking features. For this reason, the shop owner naturally didn't dare to say anything. He couldn't point at Nesha and Nesha during the introduction and say that this person was a pure-blooded dragon, right? So the knight, who knew nothing, took the two women to the fifth outer layer. Therefore, at this moment, Lozos believed that these two so-called distinguished customers were at most just members of a self-proclaimed community in the fourth outer layer. With the support of Thousand Eyes behind him, he didn't pay attention to this meeting at all. Well, where is my exclusive maid? Nesha Neza asked as she walked into the hall. Her cute look immediately cheered up Lozos. Although he lacked interest in young girls, Louis had to admit that the girl in front of him was even more stunning than Letitia. If a girl like this becomes a commodity, she will definitely become more powerful, right? Of course, what interests Louis even more is the cold and charming woman following behind the petite girl. Louis has seen all kinds of iceberg beauties, but this kind of coldness makes him feel that if he looks at her eyes one more time, he will. There really has never been a time when a woman was frozen. Oh, she's such a beauty, why didn't you tell me earlier, Louis Oasis exclaimed exaggeratedly when he saw the appearance of Kel'Thuzad and Nesha Nessa, and then complained again to those around him. As subordinates. The knight, who was well aware of his leader's temperament, could only smile helplessly. Are you the leader here? Neshana raised her eyebrows slightly at Lozos's words, but she didn't care. Guys of this level were not in her eyes yet, and she would not be angry because of the ant's words. As for Kel'Thuzad on the other side, she still maintained an expressionless look, making it impossible to tell what she was thinking. Ahem, as you can see, I am the master of Perseus. Feeling good about himself, Louis said with a devilish smile. I heard that the two ladies are willing to pay 100 times the price for this little vampire. Yes, leave her to us. With all due respect, the price of 100 times is really appalling. Can your community really afford such a price? Lozos said uncertainly, while Neashanisa spoke impatiently. Money is not an issue, that kind of thing doesn't mean anything to me. If all of Nesha and Nesha's collections were taken out, the amount would be enough to make anyone despair. To her, gold coins are just something that is shiny and comfortable to look at. Not to mention 100 times, even if the price is 1,000 times, the girl can still take it out without changing her expression. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious. I'm not questioning whether you can afford that price, but I have other ideas now. I don't plan to use money to sell this little vampire. I intend to make an equal exchange. Exchange. Neashanisa was stunned for a moment, unable to realize what Lozos meant. That's right. It's just an exchange. How about using the entourage behind you? Without concealing his thoughts, Lozo smiled and revealed his purpose, pointing at Kel'Thuzad and saying so. Ha, you want her? Nationeza was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help but laugh. Somewhat confused about what the girl was laughing at, Lozo scratched his head in confusion. Well, then do you agree or not? Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of her. I will provide 3 meals with a collar and love every night. Promise, why not agree, just? Nesha and Nisa stopped with a smile. The girl tilted her head slightly, staring at Lozo's, and the corners of her mouth slightly curled up to reveal a devilish smile. I'm afraid you won't be able to enjoy it with your life. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 193. After Nationeza finished speaking, Lozo's face showed a hint of joy at first, but it soon turned into confusion because of the girl's next words. No life to enjoy. What a joke, no matter how chaste a woman is, she will be tamed and submissive in his hands. He wants to see how long this iceberg beauty can hold on. Halfway through his thinking, the speed began to stagnate. A look of horror appeared on Lozo's face, and then he felt a stinging pain in his chest. It was the feeling of the body being pierced and torn bit by bit, and the next moment, Lozo's couldn't feel anything at all, because the place where the pain came from had been completely frozen. Ah! Ah! What did you do? What did you do? My arm. Nothing happened. The surrounding knights fell into chaos listening to their leader's screams, but they did not see anything. The 2 girls just stood there without making any movement, and then one of Lozo's arms it has been abolished. It's really unpleasant, like a duck quacking. Nationeza grinned slightly, showing a sarcastic smile, while Kel'Thuzad standing next to her still looked cold and did not say anything. Although he didn't know what happened, Luis knew that the 2 women in front of him must have done something good. Almost immediately, he issued an order to his men. Assholes! Catch them! Are you all idiots? There was no feeling at all in his thick arms. Luyo, who was a little angry, pointed at the 2 girls below and yelled. At this time, the sluggish knights of the community realized that their leader had been attacked, and his entire arm was crippled. The knight who raised his weapon and charged towards Zia was frozen in place before he could even shout out his slogan. Louis clearly witnessed the entire process of this scene. The pale color slowly spread upward from their feet, and then turned their entire bodies into ice sculptures bit by bit. This process was as natural as breathing. When Lozos came to his senses, all the Perseus knights in the entire hall had turned into ice sculptures that could not move. Really, why are men in this world always so stupid? If you were smarter, you wouldn't end up like this. Nationeza shook her head with regret, and while speaking, she revealed the hidden physical features. First there are the small horns on the top of the head, and then there is the restless and swaying dragon tail. You, a pure blood of a dragon. The moment he saw Nationeza's appearance, Lozos woke up and clearly realized what kind of existence this guy standing in front of him was. Hey, it doesn't look too stupid, but it's a pity that I found out too late. Nationeza shook her head with regret, while Lozos cursed in his heart. You hide your physical characteristics, so who can tell that you are a pure-blooded dragon? If I knew this, I would be respectful to you and not have any delusions. Wait a minute, even if you are a pure-blooded dragon, I am also a cotter of the 1,000 eyes. If you kill me, you will wait for the endless revenge of the 1,000 eyes. Now is not the time to regret. How to save one's life in front of these 2 killers is the most important thing. Those who don't know are not guilty. Besides, you have given me enough punishment. You have destroyed one of my arms. What else do you want? If you want this vampire, I am willing to give it to you for free. Oh, looks like this. It sounds like an exciting proposal. Looking at Nesha and Nisa, who nodded lightly, Lozos couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although he suffered a big loss, he could at least save his life. As for regaining his place, Qian Yan would not offend a pure-blooded dragon for him. Although the hope is slim, there is always a chance as long as you are alive, right? If you die, there will be nothing. After analyzing this very calmly, Lozos made such a proposal without being arrogant or humble. He also believed that the other party would not kill him. After all, it was just a verbal conflict, and he did not go too far to kill his words. It was really unwise to offend Kinyan by killing him for this. So the other party will never kill him. Lozos has such self-confidence, but he seems to have overlooked one thing, that is, for the Demon King, their code of conduct is completely unreasonable. Before Lewis could even breathe a sigh of relief, the deadly murderous intention approached again. Accompanied by a sound that was comparable to a sonic boom, ice and frost flew in the air, and the air in front of him quickly solidified and then shattered. Kel'Thuzad was slightly startled, as her attack was blocked by something. R.A. R.A. roared, which was simply not a language that humans could utter. A brown beam of light bloomed in front of Lozos, and then revealed the giant beast that blocked the attack. The woman who appeared was covered in restraints and restraint belts. It was hard to imagine that she was a woman. Her disheveled gray hair stood on end and she kept screaming. Suddenly, the restraints binding the woman's arms broke, and she screamed as she leaned back. "You bastard, do you really think that I am a character who can be slaughtered by others? Wake up, Demon King of Yarger, kill them for me." Barking wildly, Lozos stood up holding his broken arm. Facing the sudden appearance of the Star Spirit level Demon King, Nayashanisa showed some interest. If we were to add a ranking and compare one with another, the Star Spirits would be at the top of the 3 strongest tribes in the Little Garden, while the other 2 tribes would be relatively equal. This is not a matter of compatibility, but because the Protoss has nothing to do with the origin of mankind, it is inevitable that they will be born. This is the unknown world mentioned above. Therefore, if you want to completely kill the Star Spirits, you must have a secret skill that can completely destroy the infinite world, otherwise it is impossible. However, there are also high and low levels of Star Spirits. For example, the Demon King Yerger in front of us is no longer a pure Star Spirit, but a fallen god who has been enslaved by a higher level. As for things like gods, you can see how ridiculous they are by referring to the snake god who was hung up and beaten by Yeyu. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 194. Ha ha ha, you ask for this. Don't think that pure-blooded dragons can do whatever they want in the small garden. Among the 3 strongest tribes, you are just the least mysterious one. Although he kept telling himself that there was nothing to be afraid of, and although the 2 women in front of him were very powerful, and one of them might be a pure blood of a dragon, he still had a chance to win. He has the strongest ace in the game, the Demon King at the level of a Star Spirit. The other party is just a pure blood of a possible dragon. Maybe he is just scaring himself. If she were just an ordinary dragon, then she would definitely not be Yarger's opponent. It's really boring. When did I say I was going to take action? I don't even bother to take action against an ant like you. Arrogant guy, pay the price. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Such a perfect product like yours will be as popular as this little vampire here, right? As for her, I will break her limbs, and then continue to insulting her beautiful body. Touching his entire broken arm, Lozos's face became extremely cruel. Oh, little KK, it seems that he still misses you. I really didn't realize that a type like you would be so popular with women. Kel'Thuzad tilted his head slightly, as if he wanted to show a distressed expression. But even so, there was still no serious expression on her face. "Master, what should we do now?" "Impose sanctions, in the name of the scourge." The smile on her face faded. Nationaza said this coldly, then turned around and prepared to leave the hall. "As you wish, your will is everything." He bowed slightly towards Nesha and Nisa's leaving figure, and then Kel'Thuzad turned his head again and looked at the huge monster in front of him. Ra, roaring and screaming, the body of the woman named the Demon King of Yargal who rushed towards Kel'Thuzad suddenly stagnated, and the frost froze her legs in an instant, causing her whole body to fall to her knees on the ground with a roar. The stone bricks under his knees exploded radioactively, and the crazy Demon King roared again, but this time the sound was a wail. "The community Perseus, in the name of the Scourge Legion, will impose heavenly punishment on you." The four characters of the Scourge made Luzos, who had almost fallen into madness, wake up for a moment. When the memory retrieved by the remaining sanity told Luzos what these four words actually meant, it was already too late. The pitch-black contract document fell from the sky without any extra information. The only thing dissatisfied with the entire contract document was the word death written with a blood-like wink. Bring disaster. Bring death. Bring destruction. Show no mercy. Unreasonable. No distinction between right and wrong. The strongest community of demon kings in the third outer layer of Hakedan, the Scourge Legion. Have you provoked such an existence? Luzos, who stood there blankly, had even forgotten to continue directing the Demon King to launch an attack. The pitch-black contract documents continued to fall, like an unstoppable downpour, and then there was a crisp clicking sound in Kel'Thuzad's palm. Kel'Thuzad held his hands like claws, and there were chaotic black cracks in her palms. It was obvious that her actions just now directly crushed the space in her palms. Perhaps it wouldn't be surprising to use one's own power to create such a small space fragmentation in the palm of one's hand. Even the Demon King Yargar driven by Luzos can do it. But Kel'Thuzad was a mage, and he was obviously not the type to use brute force to fight. Frost, Nova. Whispering in a low voice, the inconspicuous ice ball gradually expanded in her palm, accompanied by dense black threads like a spider web. That was a shattered space. The fragmentation she created was not simple. It was not an ordinary space fragmentation. The dark cracks were completely covered with a layer of frost. They were forcibly opened by the frost. Freezing space with cold requires such low temperature cold. Kel'Thuzad's frost nova is nothing short of a miracle. The next moment, pure white mixed with pitch black completely wiped Perseus out of this box garden. Although it was daytime, the sky above the outer gate of 26,745 was covered in pitch black. What covers the sky is not dark clouds or birds, but countless black contracts, representing the contracts of the Demon King's gift game. What happened? Several people who were preparing to go to the headquarters of the community Perseus located in the 88th branch of the Eye of Summoning and stationed at the outer gate of 26,745 stopped one after another. Originally, Black Rabbit planned to go here alone to negotiate, but neither Yeyu nor Izaoi were worried. Asuka and Yao were worried that Black Rabbit would not be able to think of it for a while and agreed to the other party's rude request. As a result, several people came together. Coming. With the help of Bayaksha, he successfully passed through the realm gate and arrived at the fifth outer layer. However, the moment they looked at the scene of the 26,745 outer gate on the fifth outer layer, everyone fell silent. The dark contract documents were floating down from the sky, like a never-ending downpour, carrying the aura of despair and death. Each Demon King has different rules of conduct, and when the Demon King provokes the gift game, he will inevitably spill the challenge letter representing the contract. This is the rule of Hakedan. Although the Demon King has the right to initiate the gift game at will, he still cannot violate this rule. The number of contract documents and the power fluctuations emitted can well reflect the strength of the devil who provokes the game. This level of gifting game, this despairing power and aura, could not help but once again arouse the huge fear in Black Rabbit's heart. The once destroyed hometown, the destroyed and fragmented community, all of this, along with the contract fluttering in the sky, replayed itself in Black Rabbit's mind again. Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit, are you okay? What's wrong with you, Black Rabbit? Asuka shook Black Rabbit's body worriedly, while Izayoi on the other side picked up a dark contract, and suddenly death appeared in his eyes. What does it say? It's not a pleasant message. Izayoi said this with a wry smile, and immediately showed the contract document in his hand to everyone. Everyone fell silent, looking at the word death spread throughout the document. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 195. The presence of the Demon King in the Little Garden can be said to be a phenomenon. This phenomenon occurs every once in a while in a certain class of the Little Garden. The high-level rulers of the Little Garden don't seem to care about this phenomenon, or maybe the appearance of the Demon King just gives them something to entertain themselves in their boring lives, right? Attacks by the Demon King are not unusual, but an attack of this scale that covers almost an outer gate is a bit exaggerated. This is already a large-scale attack that is enough to alarm the class rulers. The class ruler of the East District is Shiro Yaksha. I wonder if she has received the news now. Hey, Black Rabbit, don't be so scared for no reason. You haven't told us what this thing is yet. Black Rabbit, who was immersed in the painful memories of the past, was awakened by Izaoi's words and immediately raised his head with some bitterness. I'm sorry, I remembered some sad things. This is a contract document, which means that the devil has launched the gift game. The Demon King's game, but, what exactly is this game? The contract just has the word death written all over it? When Izaoi said this, Black Rabbit was a little surprised. When she saw the words on the contract document, she fell silent. The girl took a deep breath and spoke slowly with some difficulty. The word death, even I have never seen this situation before, but it should mean that the Demon King does not want to do anything unnecessary, but simply wants to kill people. Black Rabbit said this and shook his head. No. This is completely wrong. It shouldn't be like this. Even if the Demon King does this, it is against the rules. This kind of killing game that does not give the other party any chance to resist is not allowed. Black Rabbit said so excitedly, while Izaoi shook his head. It's no problem. This kind of game is like a game where you stand there and catch my punch. If you catch it, you win. If you fail to catch it, you lose. Izaoi said this, and Kuro Yosagi was silent again. The girl only felt that such a game was not in compliance with the rules from a moral perspective, but in fact it was recognized and allowed by the operating mechanism of the Little Garden, which means that this is somewhat there is no problem. This kind of excessive thing. Let's go and take a look. If you guessed correctly, this community that was ravaged by the devil should be Perseus, right? It seems that they have done too many bad things, and even the devil is eyeing them. Izaoi said with some humor, and the group stepped on the black contract documents and moved forward again. Ahead is the residence of the Perseus community, or rather the former residence, which has now turned into a piece of glacial debris. The frost nova, which is enough to tear apart space, ruthlessly tore everything that swept through into pieces. The only thing that can prove that Perseus once existed is probably the one who was brought out by Kel'Thuzad. Letitia is petrified. There was no time to be surprised at what happened to Perseus. Black Rabbit's eyes were instantly attracted to Kel'Thuzad holding Letitia. Is her? Yeah, you was stunned for a moment, staring blankly at the woman standing in the faint ice mist. Kel'Thuzad still gave people the same shocking beauty as when they first met. This beauty was enough to frostbite the soul. Izaoi and the others, including Black Rabbit, could not hold on for a moment before turning their heads. They could no longer look directly at Kel'Thuzad. Only Yayu could continue to stare at him. Ah, it seems that this lady was the one who destroyed Perseus. I don't know how the poor guy provoked her. Izayoi said a little funny, while Black Rabbit took a step forward, lowered his head and spoke with difficulty. My lord, please return Letitia to us. She is our important companion. The Black Rabbit shivered under Kel'Thuzad's gaze, but the Black Rabbit did not flinch at all. In order to save Letitia, she is willing to give everything she has. The silence lasted for a moment, and just when Black Rabbit couldn't help but want to speak again, a figure slowly walked over in the ice mist. Ha ha ha, you are making conditions to the Demon King, and you are the Demon King who just destroyed a community. With some nasty laughter and restless swaying of her tail, Neshanasha slowly emerged from behind Kel'Thuzad. The moment the girl appeared, Yayu sensed a great sense of crisis and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Interesting, are you just nameless? Although he was looking for everyone in Black Rabbit, Naisha's crimson eyes with a smile only stayed on Yayu. Owner. Kel'Thuzad tilted his head, and Neshanasha nodded slightly. He's right. This time I owe Shiro Yaksha a favor. The person she had been looking for many years appeared in front of her. Natianaza was still a little excited, but she soon calmed down and began to narrow her eyes and look at Yayu wantonly. Such naked eyes made Yayu shrink back slightly in discomfort, and seeing the other party's behavior, Nation and Naisha laughed happily. The girl lowered her head and gently bit her fingertips. You are so cute, you know. Immediately I will make you something that belongs only to me. Originally, he wanted to muster up the courage to negotiate with Kel'Thuzad and beg her to return Letitia to him, but the moment he saw Nesha and Nisa coming out, Black Rabbit turned pale, and he didn't even have the courage to speak. There is none left. The small and cute dragon horns and the long tail swaying back and forth, such conspicuous features cruelly and ruthlessly announced her identity. One of the strongest races in Hakoniwa, the pure blood of dragon. How could it be? Why would such a terrifying existence come to the fifth outer layer? Isn't it that the place where they are active is above the third floor of Hakoniwa? If such a powerful person takes action on the lower level, it will directly cause the collapse of the entire outer layer, right? If I ask you again, are you nameless? No one will do it because of herself. Nation and Naisha raised her eyebrows and said this unhappily. Before Kuro Yosagi could speak, Izayoi jumped out impatiently. Are you the Demon King? Just in time, come and fight me. If I win, will you give Letitia back to us? Okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 196. Black Rabbit's originally pale face became even more ugly after hearing Izayoi's ungrateful words. She no longer even had the courage to get angry or reprimand, she just looked at Izayoi's back and trembled out such words. No. Don't, we'll die. Izayoi, who has always been fearless, now felt that something was wrong with the game. If Black Rabbit was making a lot of noise, waving and crazily collapsing, he could accept it with a smile, but what about this fearful and almost suffocating performance? What's going on? Who is the other party? He couldn't help but frown and asked, but he didn't get an answer. It was Nayashanisa who broke the silence. Ugh, I heard it from little KK. You nameless people are really interesting. Not sure whether she was laughing or sarcastically, Nation and Nasa took a step forward and came closer little by little. As she got closer, the expression on Izayoi's face began to change in a complicated way, and he began to somewhat understand what Black Rabbit said about not wanting or dying. The suffocating sense of oppression came over little by little as the girl moved forward, making Izayoi standing in front of her feel like she couldn't help but feel suffocated and wanted to kneel down. Izaoi's face was pale, but he stood there forcefully and persevered. There was a numbing cracking sound from the knees of Izaoi. Under this huge pressure, although Izaoi did not kneel directly, came down, but also paid a heavy price. His entire knee was shattered, and the blood froze into dark red ice before it even flowed out. This, sir, please forgive Izaoi for being rude. Seeing Izaoi's miserable appearance, Black Rabbit suddenly spoke in a panic. The girl had given up on returning to Letitia. Now she just wanted to protect her companions. It's not a bad thing to be arrogant if you have strength, but sometimes excessive pride is stupid, especially when facing people you don't know anything about. When passing by Izaoi, Nayashanisa said this, and then he passed by Izaoi and Black Rabbit and stood in front of Yayu. Because of her body shape, the girl could only look up at Yayu, but even so, Yayu still felt heavy pressure when facing the girl. It was an indescribable pressure, not fear, but a feeling like seeing a natural enemy, and one couldn't help but want to avoid and escape. Why is this happening? It must be the first time that you and the other party have met, right? Don't you want that little vampire? I can give it to you. Just when Black Rabbit was already desperate, Nayashanisa suddenly spoke. Really, sir? Black Rabbit said, overjoyed. Originally, she was ready to give up everything, as long as everyone could survive, it was enough, but at this moment, Nayashanisa said such words to give her hope. That's right. I'm not an unreasonable person. Since this little vampire is your companion, it's not impossible to hand it back to you, but you have to pay a certain price. After hearing that he had to pay a certain price, Black Rabbit quickly calmed down. The other party is the devil. Demon kings are all moody and do things based on their own preferences. How could they be so tolerant of themselves? Just like the price mentioned by Lewis, there is essentially no difference. One is still sacrificed in exchange for the other. Then, my lord, what is the price you propose? After calming down, Black Rabbit stared at Nation and Nasa, and spoke in such a calm manner, while the latter laughed softly. It's simple, I want him. Although Yayu was backing away little by little, Nation and Nasha still pressed tightly in front of him. Because of the height difference, at such a close distance, Nation and Nasha had to stare at Yayu with her head raised and looking up. Such a posture, accompanied by a faint smile on the girl's face, would make people think that Nasha and Nasa are very cute, but I don't know why Yayu didn't have any such thoughts in his heart. Obviously affected by the sins of this world, it was difficult to control his desires, and he almost did something like that to Letitia, but when he saw Nasha and Nasha, there was no trace of that in Yayu's heart. Thoughts, nothing but fear. What the hell does this happen? Who is this girl and why do I have such strange feelings for her? Before Yayu could react, Nasa had slowly stood up on her tiptoes and wrapped her hands around Yayu's neck. Are you stupid? Don't you know how to bend down a little? Nation and Nasha complained with some dissatisfaction. The girl's attitude was a bit unpredictable to Yayu, but now was not the time to consider this issue. In the eyes of others, this may be a rare blessing, but Yayu just wants to stay away from the girl. No. What's the difference between doing this and simply giving up Lady Letitia? Trading one companion for another. Black Rabbit's voice interrupted Nationess's actions. The young dragon girl raised her eyebrows unhappily, and the dragon's tail behind her swung back and forth uneasily. Yayu didn't lower her body as she wanted, so she simply stood up on her tiptoes, hanging on Yayu's neck like a koala. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discussing with you now, I'm just telling you my decision as the Demon King. Nation and Nasha said with a chuckle, because she kept shaking her body randomly, making Yayu have to bend down for her, and the satisfied dragon girl nodded lightly. Now he is my property. Of course, I also welcome your resistance at any time. If you want to take back your important companions, please come to the 357 outer gate on the third outer layer. Our Scourge Legion will always be waiting for you. Come. With that said, Neshanasha gestured to Kel'Thuzad behind her, and immediately Kel'Thuzad threw Letitia, who had not yet recovered from her petrified state, towards the Black Rabbit. The third outer layer, the Scourge. Black Rabbit, who was hugging Letitia hurriedly, murmured this title with a pale face. Izayoi and the others were not very clear about it, but Black Rabbit was very aware of the horror of this community. It was formed entirely by demon kings, a community of demon kings who had obtained their own rights and legally existed in the small garden. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 197. When talking about demon kings, people only think of destruction, and most of the demon kings in the small garden are indeed like this. Every time this group of guys who wantonly use their organizer authority provokes a gift game, they will inevitably leave behind a land riddled with holes and a dilapidated community. There is no way to get rid of the devil in the small garden. The existence of the devil is like a concept and a rule, an indispensable part for the normal operation of the small garden. The task of the class ruler is to stop the devil's gift game and eliminate the devil who behaves recklessly. However, the devil cannot be completely eliminated, and the class ruler cannot be omniscient and omnipotent and can predict the devil's actions at all times. For example, what is happening here now is something that Shiroyasha, the class ruler, did not expect. Where there is a demon king, there is naturally a community of demon kings. For example, the community Forsgaro that once challenged Wuming is a branch of the demon king community. Among the many demon king communities, the Scourge Legion headquartered in the third outer layer can be said to be the most special one. The demon king community is naturally branded as a demon king. Although it is said to be a community, they actually do not have their own residence. It is more like an organization where demon kings gather together. There are no other members except a few demon kings. But the Scourge Legion is different. Although they are also a community of demon kings, they are a huge community with huge influence rooted in the third outer layer. It can be said that the Scourge Legion's status in the third outer layer is just like the Thousand Eyes in the fourth outer layer. This community of demon kings exists legally. There are many opinions as to why this is the case. Some say it is because the powerful strength of the community leader made the rulers at the top of the little garden compromise. Others say that the Scourge Legion is actually a branch of the community of gods and demons in the first outer layer of the little garden. In short, the Scourge Legion is stationed in the third outer layer and continues to this day as a community of demon kings. If it were another demon king, asking Shiroyaksha for help, the matter could be solved quickly, but if the other party was the Scourge Legion, I'm afraid even Shiroyaksha would have a headache, right? Black Rabbit couldn't help but smile a bit bitterly when he thought about this, almost forgetting that this woman who uses the power of ice is a distinguished guest of Lord Shiroyasha. This woman is already an existence that Lord Shiroyasha needs to treat with caution, and as a pureblood with obvious dragon characteristics, Black Rabbit really can't imagine what she will be like. Could it be that she is the leader of the Scourge Legion? But, why are they interested in Yayu? This is the only thing that makes Black Rabbit unpredictable. Why did the woman take away Yayu by name? And judging from her actions, it seemed that she was familiar with Yayu, so she was very affectionate towards him. Black Rabbit couldn't understand, really couldn't understand, and in this situation, they could only take Lady Letitia back to Wuming for the time being, and then think about a solution. I hope Lord Shiroyasha will help. Talking to himself like this, Black Rabbit looked worriedly at the place where Yayu disappeared. Yayu was taken away like this, in front of them, without any resistance. At least, nothing will happen to Mr. Yayu, right? It can be seen that the pure-blooded dragon woman seems to have a strange attitude towards him. With this idea in mind, Black Rabbit and others also returned to the seventh outer layer. After returning to Wuming, after arranging several companions, Black Rabbit went directly to find Shiroyaksha. After quarreling with the somewhat cold clerk at the door of the store for a while as usual, Black Rabbit saw Shiroyasha in the store. "Lord Shiroyasha, why are you still so leisurely? The devil has appeared." Seeing Shiroyasha sitting alone in the courtyard drinking wine, Black Rabbit couldn't help but complain. "Ah, it's Black Rabbit, don't worry, sit down and have a drink with me first." "There's no time to drink now. The devil has appeared." "Ah, we know, we are the ruler of the class, Black Rabbit, don't underestimate me." Shiroyasha muttered unhappily, but Black Rabbit was a little surprised at this moment. "Since Lord Shiroyasha already knows, why haven't you taken action yet? Are you just letting the Demon Kings do whatever they want?" "I can't control it. I can't control it. Since you came to me, you should know their identities, right?" Shiroyasha said so irresponsibly, while Black Rabbit nodded helplessly. "Well, I understand, it's the Scourge Legion in the third outer layer." "Well, that's it, isn't it? Anyway, they are doing things that make me feel very comfortable. Since they are like this, there is nothing to worry about." As Bayasha said this, he drank another bowl of wine and muttered quietly. "But the favor has been cancelled out like this, I really feel unhappy." "What favor?" It's nothing, nothing. The boy was captured, right? Don't worry, this is not a bad thing, maybe it's a great good thing. I didn't expect, the person they have been looking for is like this. It was found easily, even though I had searched so many times before." Bayasha continued to mutter something in a low voice that Black Rabbit couldn't quite understand, but at least he knew that there was nothing to worry about Yayu's safety, which could be considered a comfort. "So, is it possible for Mr. Yayu to return to Wyoming? Are we just going to lose him forever?" Black Rabbit said this with some depression. Bayasha was slightly startled, and then sighed helplessly. "I can understand your thoughts, Black Rabbit. Having experienced such a cruel experience, you don't want to see even one of your companions leave. I can understand this. Although I don't know exactly what their purpose is, what I can assure you is that they are different from other Demon Kings. Otherwise, the Scourge Legion will not become a legitimate community of Demon Kings. As for Yayu, what happened this time is a big opportunity for him, and I don't think they will restrict his freedom, because if the guess is correct, he should be." Bayasha said this, paused, then looked at Black Rabbit with an expectant look on his face, and then continued. "So, there is nothing to worry about. Just wait silently. Maybe you will see a completely different Yayu appear in front of you soon." The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Shang. Chapter 198. After Yayu opened his eyes, he found himself lying on a luxurious bed in a strange room. The entire room was decorated in darker tones, surrounded by a strong aura of death, and ornaments of white bones could be seen everywhere. "What is this place? By the way, it seems like I was given by that girl." The memory stayed on the flowery smile of Naisha in front of him. Recalling the girl's smile, Yayu couldn't help but fall into intoxication. That girl is really beautiful. Yayu doesn't know why there is such a beautiful girl in this world. Maybe Kurito, Asuka and Yao could all be considered beautiful girls, but they were still far inferior compared to that girl. The beauty of Nesha Nisa is an overwhelming and aggressive beauty that cannot be described in words. It wasn't until now that Yayu recovered from the demonic beauty of Nesha and Nisa. "You're awake." Just when Yayu was sitting on the bed, lost in thought, a cold voice suddenly sounded beside him. Kel'Thuzad, carrying some food, walked up to him and stared at him with strange eyes. Yayu didn't know how to describe that look in his eyes. Can he call it concern? However, although it seemed that he was caring about himself, because his eyes were really emotionless, Yayu couldn't detect any concern in them. Probably because of his personality, even if he is concerned about his emotions, it is very difficult to express them. Thank you. Nodding to Kel'Thuzad, Yayu took what she brought in. Their palms touched inadvertently, and Kel'Thuzad immediately shivered in an exaggerated way, almost knocking the tray over to the ground. Then, please use that slowly. Lady Nesha and Nasha are waiting for you. After saying these words, Kel'Thuzad fled in a panic, leaving Yayu sitting there alone, confused about the situation. What is this, Shy? Yayu was a little confused about the situation, but feeling the coldness left on his fingertips, the contact between the girl and him at that moment did bring him an indescribable feeling. I always feel that I should know this girl, be familiar with this girl, and possess everything about this girl. Shaking his head to drive this somewhat crazy idea out of his mind, Yayu shook his head in a funny way, wondering if he had gone crazy. Why did he have such a strange idea? After simply eating something, Yayu walked out of the room and faced. After leaving the room, he was surprised to find that the place was much larger than he had imagined. The long corridor could hardly see the end. Moving forward along the corridor, passing several rooms with closed doors, Yayu soon came to the hall. Although she is the owner of this place, Nayashanisa doesn't look like a master at all. The girl who seemed to have been waiting for him for a long time sat on the table and shook her legs carelessly. The long purple hair poured down like a waterfall, part of it piled into a small puddle on the table, and part of it hung directly on the ground along the girl's exposed slender legs. The girl who only wore a short skirt had her entire body exposed from the thigh down to Yayu's eyes. Her white feet looked as if they were carved out of jade, which looked really beautiful with the vermilion paint on her nails. Seemingly noticing Yayu staring at her feet, Nayashanisa smiled sweetly, and then handed her little foot towards Yayu like a provocation. What, do you want to add it? If it's you, that's fine. This is a special gift. Come and add it quickly and be grateful. For a moment, Yayu was almost really moved, but in the end, reason prevailed. After waking up, Yayu shook his head in a funny way, and then looked at Nasha and Nasha to speak. What do you want to do by catching me back? I have heard that dragons have the habit of robbing golden treasures, and they also have the habit of robbing princesses. Is it true that female dragons have the habit of robbing men? Yayu said this in a semi-ridiculous tone, but such words seemed to annoy the girl. At a speed that could not be caught by sight, the girl's little foot accurately kicked Yayu's stomach, and then kicked Yayu's entire body to the ground. Nation and Nasha jumped on Yayu's body as if she was venting her anger, and spoke angrily while not forgetting. You are so brave. You dare to say such things in front of me. You know, that little girl Byaksha doesn't dare to be disrespectful in front of me. Although Nasha and Nasa said this, she looked very majestic, but the girl's every move could not be associated with the word majesty. All she could feel was cuteness and funny. It felt like a girl begging to act coquettishly to him. Yayu was slightly stunned, and couldn't help but stretched out his hand to gently pull the girl's sleeve, and immediately heard the girl's cute exclamation. He pulled her into his arms. Hey! You guy, do you want to die? He couldn't help but make such a threatening sound, but Yayu was not moved by it. He just hugged the girl's body gently and gently covered her head with his hands. The long hair spilled, spread, and fell from Yayu's body, with a refreshing cold touch, which made Yayu couldn't help but sigh softly. The sigh made Nasha feel particularly shy, and the girl's proud little face was stained with a slight blush. She didn't move or struggle anymore, but just lay on Yayu's back without saying a word. In the arms. This was the embrace she had longed for, the embrace she had been waiting for a long, long time. A pair of big crimson eyes were filled with mist, and the expression on his face became as aggrieved as he felt. But none of this was seen by Yayu, because the girl buried her entire face in Yayu's arms, only her shoulders that shook from time to time exposed her. You, cried. After a while, Yayu spoke softly, with an indescribably gentle voice, but Nationess's whole body was slightly stunned, and then she raised her head with a blushing face. Who? Who is crying? Why should I cry? You bastard, you are so brave, you dare to take advantage of me, I. Nation and Nasa raised their heads again, blushed and spoke incoherently. That cute look made you couldn't help but smile. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 199. Feeling calmer than ever before, as if holding the girl in his arms was like embracing the whole world, Yayu closed his eyes involuntarily and began to enjoy the rare moment of tranquility. The initial fear and uneasiness had long since disappeared, or perhaps the fear and uneasiness were due to the fear of losing the presence in my arms again. Who am I, who is she to me? Why do I have such thoughts? He is still as cunning as before. He is indeed the man I like. The warm embrace didn't last long, and then a proud voice came from Nesha and Nisa's mouth. Nation and Nasha, who had already been sitting on Yayu in a straddling posture at some point, held her hands and looked down at Yayu with condescending eyes. The sudden change made Yayu unable to react for a long time. Just now, she looked like a pitiful little girl, but how could she become a queen in the blink of an eye? Thinking this way, Yayu touched the tip of his nose in a funny way, but now he had more important things he wanted to know. Who am I? Who are you, and what is my relationship with you? Yayu asked softly, but Nation and Nasha did not tell her. Nation and Nasa, who remained silent for a moment, stood up from Yayu. The girl turned around proudly, and her long purple hair swept across his face. On the cheeks, an indescribable light fragrance is left. You are not qualified to know this now. It is true that we have a close relationship, but that was you in the past and you now. Turning her head, Naisha glanced at Yayu, and then gently shook her head. Not qualified enough. Yayu smiled bitterly and touched the tip of his nose. He was still a little unconvinced by the girl's assertion like this, but he had to admit that the girl was right. He was indeed not qualified now. What is in front of me, is the existence that even Shiroyasha has to treat with caution, the Demon King located in the third outer layer of the little garden. Although she showed such an intimate gesture to herself, Yayu knew that the gap between him and her was really far, far away. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they were worlds apart. The third outer layer, according to Shiroyasha, he is currently crushing the seventh outer layer. Does that mean there are enemies on the sixth layer that he cannot deal with? So, how big is the gap between myself and the third outer layer? The thought lasted for a moment, and then Yayu shook his head. There are too many things to worry about now. The most important thing at the moment is to find a way to get the gift of freely traveling around the world. Since there is news that Bayasha has such a gift, then she in the third outer layer, must know more details, right? Looking at Nasha in front of him, Yayu thought so, and then asked decisively. Do you know how to get the gift of freely traveling around the world? Oh, why are you asking this? Do you want to leave this small garden? Listening to what Yayu said, Naishanisa turned her head curiously. Yes, because there are people in other worlds that I care about and have to find. When Yayu said this, Nation and Nasha frowned slightly, but after a while, she let out a long sigh. That's it, the one I care about. I do have the gift of traveling across the world, and I can even give it to you at any time. Really, really. Listening to what Nasha said, Yayu suddenly opened his eyes in excitement, but Nasha's next words calmed him down. But don't be too happy too early. The gift of traveling across the world alone has no meaning. If you want to go to a specific world, you must know the coordinates of that world. Sid, coordinates. Yayu was stunned for a moment, with a confused look on his face. Looking at you, it's obvious that you don't know anything about coordinates. Nationaza sighed slightly as she spoke. I can help you locate the coordinates. You only need to provide the world's power characteristics, name, or the existence of something highly mysterious, but this requires the world. Is that so? I'll trouble you. The characteristics of those two worlds. Yeah, you finished his words but was interrupted again. Naishanisha looked at him and shook her head gently. Do you think it is easy to travel freely around the world? If you want to master this power, you are not qualified now. You are too weak. Yayu was stunned again, but this time he was not in a hurry. He just tilted his head slightly and stared at Nation and Naisha. So, you're going to make me stronger, right? Yayu had already vaguely guessed Nationis's purpose, and couldn't help but ask with a smile. Well, that's right. Although you are weak and pitiful now, don't worry, I will help you become stronger soon, at least to the level of that little girl Shiro Yaksha. Nation and Naisha coughed awkwardly, as if to hide the blush on her face. Then the girl stared at Yayu with a serious face, and spoke slowly again. I will send you into the kingdom of God in the palm of my hand, and your goal is to continue to become stronger, and then seize the origin of this world and make it your own world. The kingdom of God in your palm. Yayu murmured to himself. Although he didn't know exactly what it meant, he understood that it must be a level of power that he couldn't understand. Gods are also divided into levels. It is obvious that the girl in front of me, Nationaza, is a pure blood of dragon. She has no problem being called a god. It could even be said that many of the gods in this small garden were helpless in front of her and could only be crushed to death as easily as ants. When the time comes, you will understand all these things that need to be understood. Now, hurry up and set off. Naishanisha said this, and with a wave of her hand, a door opened in front of Yayu. This is, the kingdom of God in your palm. Looking at the portal in front of him, Yayu murmured to himself, while Nationaza nodded slightly. Yes, although this is the kingdom of God in my palm, it does not mean that you will be treated like a god when you enter. On the contrary, in this powerful world, you may die unexplained at any time, so, are you ready? Don't worry, I won't die. Yayu nodded lightly, smiled at Naisha and Naisha, and immediately stepped into the portal. What a idiot. There was a hint of reluctance in her eyes, and immediately Nationaza made up her mind and completely sealed the portal with a wave of her hand. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 200. Feeling the unpleasant sultry heat unique to summer nights, the girl walked alone through the completely darkened campus. At this time, walking on the campus that had become empty was a girl with red-rimmed glasses and black short eyebrow-length hair. The girl is a third-year student at Kyo Academy and the student council president, Shidori Sana. Of course, this name and identity were placed in front of those classmates and teachers. The girl's true identity was actually a devil. Sana Siddhi, this is the girl's real name as a demon. She is the successor head of the Siddhi family of pure-blood superior demons in hell, and her sister is the famous Leviathan, one of the current 4 demon kings. The reason why the girl is still patrolling the campus at this time is very simple, because she feels that something bad has sneaked into the school. A lost devil? You are so brave, you dare to hide in Kyo Academy. In ancient times, the 3 forces of gods, demons, and fallen angels fought a war for the hegemony of the world. This war later became a stalemate and turned into a war of attrition. As a result, all 3 forces were consumed by this war. In this war, due to the death of God, the number of angels was unable to increase, and their combat power dropped significantly. The demon side also lost the 4 major demon kings and more than 2/3 of the superior pure-blood demon combat power. The fallen angels, except for a few cotters, almost the entire army was wiped out. In the end, Azazel, the governor of the fallen angels, took the lead in leading the fallen angels to withdraw from the war. Angels and demons also withdrew from the war. The war ended without a winner. However, the three forces each concealed the truth of God's secrets. News of death. Because of this war, the three forces all fell into the dilemma of insufficient combat power, and each began to rely on humans for continuation. The angels began to develop the Holy Swordsman project to cultivate humans, and later developed playing cards for reincarnated angels. The demons developed demon chess pieces for reincarnated demons. The fallen angels also began to study the things left by God that only humans can inherit. Artifact. Humans who use demon chess pieces to reincarnate are almost the same as demons, but sometimes the reincarnated demons leave their masters due to various circumstances. At this time, such demons are called lost demons. Most of the lost demons are extremely mentally unstable and highly aggressive, and can easily expose the secrets of the demon's existence to ordinary people. So once a lost demon is discovered, the first priority is to annihilate it. Before leaving today, Shidori-sana felt an aura that was not right, and then she noticed that there was a lost demon hiding in the campus while she was not paying attention. Naturally, such a dangerous person cannot be left alone, otherwise a major accident will definitely occur when the students go to school the next day, so Shidori-sana plans to take advantage of the night to deal with him alone. Okay, the game of hide and seek is over. Behind the warehouse of the gymnasium, Shidori-sana finally found the person she was looking for. It was a human being who was wrapped in pitch-black aura and exuded a chaotic aura. The moment he saw Sana, he opened his mouth and roared like a beast. "Have you lost all your sanity? Don't worry, you will be relieved soon." Sana said this and pushed his eyes. "Kill! Kill!" With such a roar coming out of his mouth, the crazy lost demon launched an attack on Shidori-sana. Is this the only level? With a wave of his hand and a simple low-level magic water curtain impact, the turbulent water knocked the lost demon away. He shook his head in disappointment. It seemed that there was no artifact in this demon's body, so his final value was gone. But soon, Kang-na shook her head in amusement. Artifacts are such precious things, how could they be in every human body? Even now, only 2 of his dependents have real artifacts, and the others are just artificial artifacts given to them later. Okay, I'll let you go soon, I'm sorry. Shidori-sana said this as she looked at the roaring lost demon. The water flow in her hands began to spin as if it was alive, and it wrapped around the lost demon. As if he instinctively sensed the danger, the lost demon wanted to escape, but it was obviously too late. The high-speed rotating water cut his body open like a sharp blade. The number of lost demons has been increasing recently, the fallen angels seem to be making some moves, and the human world is becoming more and more restless. Looking at the slowly dissipating body of the lost demon, Shidori-sana sighed slightly, then turned around and planned to leave, but at this moment a powerful wave of power struck, making the girl's eyes widen in surprise. What? This power, is this a trap? Sana subconsciously thought that this lost demon was a trap set by the fallen angels, with the purpose of capturing her, the sister of the 4 demon kings. However, it turned out that she thought too much. No matter how courageous the fallen angels were, they still knew it. Who can be touched and who cannot be touched? The power comes from the sky, but it is not the familiar power of the fallen angels, but another power that makes Sana feel familiar yet strange. As a demon who is proficient in water magic, Kang-na felt that the power in his body was vaguely restless. They seemed to be afraid of something falling from the sky. What exactly is it? As Sana murmured to herself, the girl raised her head and looked at the thing with blue tails falling from the sky. This person seemed to be exuding a power that made her feel fearful. The figure landed hard on the open space in front of her, making a numbing crackling sound. Finally, broken ice cubes were scattered all over the ground. Shidori-kang looked stupidly at the man who fell from the sky and appeared in front of him. Most of the ice cubes surrounding his body were broken. What is the situation? Falling out of a plane? But why does it freeze? It's summer now. Thinking of this, Kang Na couldn't help but shiver, because the girl was shocked to find that the temperature around her was dropping at an extremely terrifying speed. And the culprit that caused all this was the man who was frozen in front of her at this moment.